Welcome to Cook It. I'm Barbara Thiel, County Home Economist with the Cooperative Extension Service. And with me today, I have Brian Kaplinger, sous chef from the Thomas Edison Inn. And Brian is going to cook some fish with us. Now, Brian, what I notice here is that you have a variety of fish, some deep Atlantic, some from Florida, and some that we catch locally. Now, you know what I really wish you would address today is we receive a lot of calls at the Extension Service because with your salmon here, we'll be having coho salmon come, and people will have a lot of fresh fish. They're going to have some pickerel, which I see you have here, some beautiful perch. Oh, can I touch these?
Sure.
Oh, they're just absolutely so fresh. They don't smell fishy. They're wonderful. But you know that when the children bring the perch home, when Dad brings the salmon home,
Sure.
pickerel, you know the homemaker, she's lost. And you know what happens too many times? Either the cat or the garbage can gets them.
Right.
So I hope today you will address just how to cook fish in general.
Sure. Thanks, Barb. Okay, what I'm going to do today is I'm just going to do a couple basic cooking techniques with your fish. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cook off this nice tail piece of salmon here. But first of all, what you want to do with your salmon is you want to pin bone it, this salmon has already been pin boned. What you want to do is you want to pull all the little bones out of here with a pair of pliers or a pair of hemostats or something that you can get the bones out with. And what you want to do is you want to trim all the belly fat off, which on this piece most of the belly fat is trimmed off. But what I want to do is I want to get a little of this white off of here, and I just want to trim it up a little bit. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to lightly season this. Here I have your Lawry's. This is a seafood seasoning is what it is, but actually if you want you can just use Lawry's seasoning salt at home. What you do is just lightly sprinkle it on. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to lightly poach, I'm going to shallow poach this in a small pan. What I have here is I have some court bouillon. What I have is some fish base, and I have a mirepoix of celery, onions, and carrots, lemon, and some parsley stems. And I've already had this all strained off, and it's nice and hot. All you need is some nice hot liquid. It does not have to be boiling. The best thing to do is have this about 180 to 200 degrees, somewhere in there. Now this pan is going to be nice and hot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop some of this in here, cool the pan down just a little. Now I'm going to put that on the stove. You really don't want it to boil. I got this pan a little hot. You do not really want it to boil. You just want it to simmer nicely. And then again, you just take your salmon. Very easy, very simple to prepare. Drop it in. Make sure that the water covers it all the way. Or your court bouillon, I'm sorry. Cover it all the way, let it simmer. As you can see, it's already starting to cook. I'm going to turn that down just a little bit. We'll cover that and we'll come back to that in a couple minutes. Now the next thing I want to do, I want to show you a couple simple ways just to broil at home. A lot of people, they're either scared of broiling or they just don't want to bring their oven up hot enough, but you can get your oven hot enough at home where you can cook this fish in 8 to 10 minutes. Now again, what I want to do here is whitefish is really a bony fish. Now, I've already pin boned all this off, but what you want to do is you want to get these little bones. They're not very tough, but then again, you don't want to really bite into them. So what you want to do is you want to feel along, make sure you get all the bones, and that one's fairly good at being pin boned. So now what I want to do is I just want to trim off the belly fat here. The belly fat right here is the white part. It's it's fairly tough and it doesn't have a very pleasant taste to it. So we always remove that whenever possible. Now, what you want to do is you want to butter the bottom of your pan here, just slightly. I'm going to cook the whitefish and the pickerel. Just butter the bottom of your pan real lightly. And if you're at home and you have cooking wine, I usually put just a little white wine down, but today I'm just going to use a little bit of the court bouillon. And I'm going to, again, grab just a little bit of seasoning. Season the bottom of your pan. This helps keep the fish from sticking on the bottom. And then just take a little bit of your lemon, take a little bit of fresh lemon, squeeze the juice onto the bottom of the pan. It helps keep the fish and the skin from sticking to your pan. Now I'm just going to add a little bit of court bouillon. That evenly distributed around the pan. Now what I do is when I cook fish, the tail piece is always smaller. The tail piece is going to cook a little faster, and to make it easy on yourself, fold that piece under like so. Fold that piece under and lay it on your broiler pan. Now, when this shrinks up and it cooks up, you can be able to pick it up very easily with your spatula and not have it fall all over the floor. Now again, this is a nice piece of pickerel. I'm going to do the same thing with this. Just going to trim away the belly fat. There you have a nice fillet of pickerel. I'm going to fold that under, same way. Season this again on both sides. A little bit of lemon juice. And then again, if you prefer white wine is good with fish to cook. Now I'm just going to take this. You can use olive oil. You can use olive oil if you'd like. But in my case, I prefer to use butter because butter gives it a better flavor when you're cooking fish. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to brush this nicely. And there you have your fish all ready to go. I'm going to put it in the oven on broil on the top shelf for about 8 minutes. We'll keep an eye on that. Now I have my salmon here. And to check your fish when it's cooking, to check to see if it's done, all you have to do is lift it up, pull it apart, and if it's white all the way through, then your salmon is done. Okay. This salmon is perfectly cooked. You want to slightly undercook your fish because when it sits on the plate, it's going to cook. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this fish and I'll show you how to remove the skin because some people don't like the skin on their fish. And it's fairly simple to do, especially when you poach your fish. All you have to do is turn it over. And this is another good way to tell if your fish is done. If you push on it and it's really firm in the middle, your fish is cooked. Then all you have to do is simply just pull the skin right off. It should come off in a fairly easy piece. And disregard that. Now you have a nice fresh piece of salmon already cooked. All you need to do is grab a plate. Garnish that with a little fresh dill. Fresh herbs are available most of the time. You can either use fresh dill, fresh parsley, and just garnish that, and that can be your main entree. Very simple, very easy to do. Took me less than 10 minutes. Okay. Now all we have to do is wait on our pickerel and whitefish to cook. You want to keep an eye on it. You don't want it to get too dark on the top. And this is already starting to cook real well. When you buy your fresh fish, you want to always make sure that it's fresh. The skin is nice and firm. The color is nice. Frozen fish the same way.
Well, Brian, I'm so glad you shared the cooking technique because so often, our cookbooks change everything
Yes.
constantly, as you know, because you're a culinary chef with a lot of background, and they'll say, cook until it flakes with a fork, but you
Right.
brought that out, that is really could be tough.
Right. You don't want to overcook your fish. I'd rather have it slightly undercooked than overcooked. It makes it a lot better. It's flakes off. I never really understood that myself when they said flaked off to the fork because it's just not proper sometimes.
Another good dish with fish that people often overlook is chowder.
Yes.
Fish can make excellent
Right.
chowder.
We at the Thomas Edison Inn, we use red snapper. We make a snapper chowder. We use all different kinds of fresh fish and different kinds of chowder. This week we're running a Florida special menu at the Thomas Edison, and we were running conch chowder. Conch is the meat that you get out of the conch shells, the large shells, and it's very good.
Especially in the Keys. You
Yes.
see that in the Florida Keys. They feature conch shells. That's wonderful. Well, I'm so glad you addressed the common fish. Now, the fish that we find in our area make chowder too. A nice firm pickerel, sheephead, skin them. The sheephead that you bring home, they'll make a nice chowder.
Sure.
And of course, don't let the perch go to waste. They poach so nice,
Right.
or fry, pan fry.
The best thing to do with your perch is to just lightly bread them and deep fry them in a 350-degree deep fryer, or saute them a minute and a half, 2 minutes at the most, and they're done. They're so nice. They flake off real nice. What I like about perch is they're really smooth. They very rarely have bones, especially when you get the smaller fillets such as these.
That's right. They're excellent food, full of nutrients. They have the omega-3 oil, which helps lower cholesterol, and they're just a good quality protein. Really good and easy to digest.
Sure.
From babies right through senior citizens. Oh, that looks so good.
Now this isn't quite cooked all the way, but what I want to show you is to make sure that you don't let your pan get too dry. So I'm going to add just a little bit more court bouillon here. And this has got a couple more minutes. Boy, that smells good.
Oh, it's beautiful quality. I learned something too, Brian. I've been a fisher lady, a fisher person for years, and I've cooked fish for years, but I never knew to tuck the tail under.
Sure, if you tuck the tail under, you'll be able to see when I pull the fish out, you can easily check your fish by pulling it up and making sure that it's opaque, and we'll get into that in a minute once we get this fish cooked. And I'll be able to show you how easy it is to get it off the pan.
And the other thing too, if they do have a large catch of fish come in, they should freeze it. They shouldn't
Sure.
keep it over a couple days. They need from river to freezer.
Right, if you get fresh fish caught in the lake or the river, and your husband brings home a large catch, what you want to do is you want to fillet them all off, leave the skin on. A lot of people take the skin off and freeze it. Leave the skin on. The skin's going to help protect it from freezer burn. And when you freeze the fish, you want to individually wrap them like we have here. Wrap them in saran wrap, individually wrap them nice and tight, and lay them skin side up in the freezer on a sheet pan and date it. That way you'll know which was caught first. If your husband's an avid fisherman or you're an avid fisherman, you'll know which ones you have to use first, and you can rotate them in your freezer. Fresh fish caught in the lakes, I usually don't let them sit more than 8 to 10 weeks in the freezer.
Good.
And then if you do pull them out, if you only need, for instance, if you have them all ready to go, all you need to do is pull 2 fillets out for you and your husband or whoever. If you have company coming over, you just pull out 4. Run them under some cold water, and they'll be thawed out in less than 20 minutes.
Well, I'm so glad you addressed that issue because we have a lot of questions on how to freeze fish, and so many people, they want to freeze it in these big blocks of
Sure,
water.
no.
And right, it takes up so much room in the
The best
freezer.
thing to do is to lay them out and individually wrap them like so. Even if you want to even make your own individually quick frozen fish like they do in the major markets, all you have to do is lay your fish out on your saran wrap like this and just lightly glaze it with a little water. Glaze it and then wrap it up, and it'll store just as well that way also.
And I
Also,
like-
you
yeah.
want to keep it from getting freezer burnt.
And date it. I'm so
Yes.
glad you told them
Yes.
to date it. It's
It's so
important.
easy to forget.
Right.
But if you go in and you have your freezer labeled, you'll know exactly when it was used. And when you pull it out, if it smells fishy, fish will go bad in the freezer also. So that way you can check it. Once you pull it out, if it smells fishy and it's kind of slimy and the scales are starting to flake off, I don't think I would throw it out. I think I would make it into chowder. But then if it smells too strong, I would get rid of it.
Right, and that's why the freezer needs to be kept at 0.
Sure.
It absolutely has to be to keep it fresh, prime quality.
Right. Well, let's
Okay,
check on our fish here. Should be pretty close.
Oh, I think lots of times people are afraid to broil at a good
Right.
hot temperature.
Use the oven, use the hottest temperature you possibly can. When you do broil, you always want to make sure you crack your oven, make sure you got ventilation on it, and keep a close eye on it. Because if you walk away and answer the telephone and you come back, your fish will be burned up. You might even burn your house down. So be very careful when you use your broiler.
That's beautiful.
Now here's the way to check the fish. What I usually do is I take a spatula and I get underneath and I pull it apart. If it falls apart fairly easy and it's nice and white and opaque in color, this fish is perfectly cooked.
Certainly is.
Okay? The same with your whitefish. See the spatula you can get underneath. You can just lift up and you can carry that fish over to your tray. Again, that's nicely cooked. Smells good. And so easy to prepare. So simple to do.
And it doesn't need anything. Good fresh fish like that.
Good
just
fresh
need-
fish is fine just the way it is.
Right.
A little lemon juice, whatever you prefer, a little white wine on top of it. Seafood seasoning, again, if you don't want to use seafood seasoning and you want to change it, you can do just a little Creole seasoning,
Certainly.
herb butter, whatever you'd like to put on there.
Just plain, simple, good fish.
Sure.
Well, thank you, Brian, for
Thank
being
you.
with us on our session of Cook It, and thank you for joining us. This has been Barbara Thiel, County Home Economist from the Cooperative Extension Service.